Hello, my name is Mark Boyer, and this topic is all about how corporations are legally our slave masters. And they've done this because they have hired the best lawyers in the world, and they corrupted every judge in between. And a typical example of how they corrupted every judge in between is Supreme Court rulings saying that corporations have all the rights of freedom of speech of any human being, which the American courts just did. Now, what's happening is in Canadian law, it applies on what they did it through Section 15, equality before and under the law. So the term individual only applies to real human beings. Now, and it's true, Section 7, which is life, liberty, and security, is corporations have those rights. And frankly, corporations have the rights of virtually all the charter, but they're given an exemption in Section 15. How it reads is corporations are not our equals. And with a stroke of a pen, by saying the term individual doesn't apply to a corporation, they are in reality saying that corporations are our superiors. Therefore, respondeat superior applies. Okay? And our courts have been taken over by the rule of law called respondeat superior. And that's the rule of law of business. And it was also the rule of law of Rome, where how one master, a Roman, treated the slave, either his slave or the slave of some other Roman. That was done under the rule of law of respondeat superior. And it's a really cruel law, and you really should Wikipedia is what I'm going to read here, because it's an accepted source. And but check around. I don't think you'll find a nice word said about respondeat superior. It's just a mean, ugly way of how to deal with business, how a business deals with another business. Okay. Now, respondeat superior is the doctrine of the buck stops here, and that's some famous president during World War II. I can't think of his name. Now, many other presidents have used that phrase. Respondeat superior is the rule of law of business, because the Americans have pulled a mercantile system. The rule of law of commerce has taken over our world through what here is described as historically, this doctrine is applied to master-servant or employee-employer relationship. If an employer or servant committed a civil wrong against a third party, the master or employer could be liable for the acts of their master or employee when those acts were committed within the scope of the relationship. The third party could proceed against both the servant employee and the master employee. Okay, now that's exactly what they've done with NAFTA. Now Europe has done what they've done with their common market, but let's talk NAFTA. This is my backyard. And what has happened here is that the master is NAFTA, and it's doing all this authority under what's called international obligations. Okay, obligations, it's a very powerful word. Okay, legally it's a very powerful word. Now, NAFTA is coming to an American courtroom and doing it in a Canadian courtroom and saying, hey guys, this is bad for business. We uphold money as supreme. And if you do a ruling here, it's going to affect commerce. that if you look up what's the color of office, which is how they govern people, the color of office used to be this ancient concept set up in Greece, which says, by the people, for the people. And right now, if you look up in the Dictionary of Canadian Law and look up color of office, after 3,000 years, it's now by the people, for the economy, under duress of a contract. They're not lying. That's exactly what it is. Okay, and they're doing it under respondeat superior. The courts, this third-party arbitrator called NAFTA, which is nothing but corporations, is saying that you can't, they're coming to Canadians and they're coming to Americans, and obviously they're doing it to Mexicans, but I'm not there, because Mexicans aren't happy with this agreement either. And they're basically interfering and saying that when it all comes down to it, when you go to a courtroom, if it affects the ability of corporations to make money, the courts have the right, and NAFTA has a right and a duty to intercede on behalf of these corporate interests, who are our superiors because we said so. Politicians gave them these rights that they're superior to us. And we are literally, we are literally being treated every day in courtrooms under this third-party agreement called respondeat superior. Now, in my criminal case, where that becomes important is that I knew this when I walked into my court cases, and I walk in saying, hey, I'm a free man on the land, for one, and two, I insist that I be treated under the constitutional rule of law of the Commonwealth, which is Section 133 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And the courts refused to give it to me. Now, everything in society runs on consent of the governed. Politicians did this 25 years ago, or they slid it in through the back door 25 years ago. And nobody really complains. Or, if someone walks into a courtroom and demands to be ruled under the rule of law of God, he was dealing with an issue that wasn't very pertinent to affecting the pocketbooks of the economy. Now, I walk into a courtroom with beautiful arguments on how to legalize marijuana and access it to Canadians through political process, and I do so by standing under the God's rule of law, which is in the Commonwealth, well outlined. And if what they're saying is the economy can override the Constitution of Canada because NAFTA is so powerful. It's dead wrong. It subverts everything, and it really makes us live in a society where we're all being treated like slaves, because it is a slave-master doctrine. Okay, and the master is NAFTA. The master contains no citizens other than dead things called corporations. These dead things follow money rules. And no matter what you do in Canada, the United States, or any country in Europe, or anywhere where there's this master called these trade organizations above them, then they've usurped all the rights of human beings.